Welcome to an exploration of sight and mind, a travel through the world of films and the artists that bring you these masterpieces. Do you love films, directors, actors, cinematographers, editors, composers, or any of the hundreds of artists that bring you these feats of art? I am Luis Lacau, your host into the world of films, your guide to Manbitesretro. The person who developed this is slightly smarter than me. Slightly. That is one of the quotes from Blackwidow, played by Scarlett Johansson. She in the MCU, obviously, and she is this badass, awesome, sassy Russian spy that joins the Avengers without any quote-unquote superpowers or anything. And today, to have this discussion with us is the amazing Mollee B Marcus. How you doing, Mollee?
Good, thank you. You're so kind.
Only the truth. Only the truth.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Happy to be here. I love talking nerd stuff anyway.
Right. And where can we find your stuff?
Oh, my stuff's mostly on Instagram, but mostly with you guys on Manbitesmedia and Diversity Geek Discussions. So you always find my opinions over there.
So please, if you like this discussion, go check out Diversity Geek as well. Subscribe to their channel. Check out their website. They have some pretty awesome articles coming out soon as well. And it'll be pretty interesting to see the connection between both of us as a company. And you'll be able to see some cool, interesting content coming out between the two of us. And Molly's a huge part of both of us when it comes to that. So why Blackwidow? Why did you bring up Blackwidow to me?
Well, her character had been, I feel, treated kind of as a sub-tier character, and as are a lot of women's characters in the MCU.
Yes.
And I feel that part of it is I love her because she's like a badass spy who then becomes one of the good guys, sort of. But as we see in the latest Avenger films. But I also am of Russian heritage, so I always kind of identified as like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then I just liked that she spread out over so many different story arcs in the actual comics, from Iron Man to Daredevil to Shield to the Avengers. So it's just so many different pieces, and so I'm excited that she's actually going to get her own film soon. So I like to see how they develop her. I think she was a little too goody two shoes for me.
But she had her moments of sass in there. She had her moments of kind of like, yeah, that's right. I'm a badass. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You think I can't hang with the boys? I could hang with the boys and much more. And especially with Endgame, like she really showed her true self in that film. And you could see where, like, how much of a badass character she really is. And if you ever overlooked her, you won't overlook her in Endgame. And I don't want to go into the spoilers of that because people still haven't finished watching it.
Have they really? Gosh, by now I should see it.
I know, but it happens. But honestly, like, her role in these films was pretty interesting because she has one of the most interesting story arcs because she doesn't have her own film. So she's been an add-on to pretty much all the films of between Captain America. Who else was it that she was a huge part of? She was big into Iron Man as well, the Iron Man movies. What else was she in? She wasn't in Thor at all, was she? In any of the films?
No. Mm-mm. No, just where there's like Shield involved.
Yeah.
Where Avengers involved. And not to mention that in Endgame, not very many people know, but I mean, you could probably just tell. But she always had like this burning love for Archer.
Yes.
And, Hawkeye. And, and so at the end, when they're trying to get the Soul Stone, obviously you see a lot of that there. A lot of pain, a lot of going back there. But
which
I think what.
that's
Okay.
interesting. It's interesting how somebody as because they're in the first Avengers movie, we saw this. We kind of saw where she was a crucial part, yet she was kind of thrown to the side, but also they really displayed her true power, which is in leadership and
Hmm.
tactical skills. Like
Yes.
she was the tactician of the group. She's the one between her and Hawkeye. They took control of the group and kind of maneuvered them to do what they needed to do. They played
Right.
the general role, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she had her start really with Shield. You know, Nick Fury picked her up. He
Yeah,
sent her on like a special mission to China, and it's there that they battle Ling and her ex husband, the Red Guardian,
yeah.
who's that Russian pilot that they married her to. And you know, she even had like love relationships with Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil.
Which
So
I didn't know about that at all.
yeah, yeah,
That's
so
interesting.
but like her training was like
Oh, dude.
all the stuff that we hear, like the myths, of Russia and the Cold War and all of that. So there's a political aspect to her as well, as a defector to the United States.
And it's interesting because they kind of go into that whole aspect like the Manchurian Candidate type of thing.
Yes,
It's a
yes,
sleeper agent that
yes.
is hyper trained and is
Mm-hmm.
completely psychologically enhanced, like
Yeah.
you had mentioned before. And
Mm-hmm.
she's done to a point where she is able to reach the max capacity that a human can, very much
Right,
like the Hannah movies as well.
right,
They all kind of pay tribute to this character because that's pretty much what they are. They're all
right,
like amplified humans, but still
right,
human.
right. And it's like you have that superhero civil war, and then her becoming a supporter of the Superhuman Registration Act, by Iron Man,
Which
all that, which is interesting. So,
I mean, that's also it goes back to this understanding like, look, we're afraid, especially her, because she could see what these superhumans could do.
right.
So you could understand her which is interesting in that film, it kind of tackles the whole like registration act and all that stuff, and it goes kind of into what do you call it, like the X-Men territory in that sense.
Right,
And I
right.
think that's interesting because they kind of do like a different twist with it, and she's one of the
Mm-hmm.
advocates for it, which kind of disrupts her character because
Yes.
her character at this point was very much hesitant about anything government related because of what they did to her. So now she takes a sideswipe, and her character does like this interesting character arc, which you realize, and it gets paid off why she actually did that, which is
Mm-hmm.
really interesting because it gives depth to the character. The
It
character
does.
is not just this one sided, like, oh, yeah, I believe this and I'm done. That's it.
Right.
No, she
Yeah. I mean,
develops.
she has like there's I believe Hydra also like makes clones of her,
Yeah.
or clones of her running around. I mean, one Black Widow is pretty badass enough, but she manages. I think she kills them all. I can't remember.
I think her and Hawkeye hunt them down,
Yeah, they hunt them
right?
down. Yeah, I know. I would like to
Because
hunt yourself down.
I think they allude to it in the movies, but they don't really show
Yeah.
anything.
No,
Uh,
they don't. So I want to see, like, if this is going to be her origin film, I want to see that little, tiny Elena, and
yeah,
I want to see where she comes from. The fact that she was never a ballerina, all of her memories were false. That she was completely brainwashed as this crazy agent,
yeah.
and the pain that she must have endured in realizing that later, too. So her story is one of suffering, but also overcoming suffering and being just this strong woman character. I kind of equate it to, like, she's in the same class as She-Hulk and some of these others that get overlooked,
Yep.
And I want her to stand on her own, not just because she's a woman character. That the character itself is worth
Well, she
exploring.
is worth it because she is a
Yeah,
badass character, and
yeah,
there's so many interesting characters in the MCU that haven't been brought to light, and I
right.
think she's one of them that, like, the more I looked into her or doing research for this episode, the more I'm like, wow, this is interesting. I want to see what they do with her in the TV show because they better do her
Yeah.
justice. She has a
Yeah.
very interesting backstory that was never brought up in the films at all.
No, it wasn't. And because we don't see like her enhancements, her biotech enhancements,
Yeah.
she doesn't age. She can heal really fast. She has like psychological stuff that like suppresses her stuff of true events as opposed to like implanting it. Like her white blood cells can fight off any microbe, so she's like immune to everything. She's like more flexible than Olympian. She has like gifted intellect. You know, she's like this. She's so capable of like all these other like jujitsu, kido, all this stuff, kung fu, Russian martial arts. You know, and you know they keep saying she's an accomplished ballerina, but she was never a ballerina. So, which I think is just so funny. It's like, what does it being a ballerina have to do with anything, other than some flexibility?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she's I'm really super excited to see, the whole, because I guess the R2R room rather still exists. So
Yeah.
they're still training people, right? So are
Exactly.
there more of her? How many more of her are there out there?
Exactly. Which it's like this is supposedly, from what I read, that this is like the Russian version of Weapon X. So
Ah,
I'm like,
okay.
okay, this is interesting. And what they're doing is they're
Yeah,
kind of going subtle about it because they didn't stick adamantium in the bodies of these people, but they enhanced
right.
them. And they did the exact same process. They trained them to be the ultimate assassins and ultimate warriors. So
Mhm.
that was the Russian version of it, where you kind of see like Omega X and all these
Mhm.
characters. So I'm wondering if they're gonna bring that together, since now they own the X-Men franchise as well, which
Oh,
would be
that's
cool
true.
to
Yeah,
see
they
like
might.
Omega
They
X,
do. They do. They do have that crossover where it's the whole Captain America and Wolverine and Nazis and all that.
which would be
So they might.
interesting, very very interesting to see. Um,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
what makes Black Widow kind of where would you recommend, or why would you recommend Black Widow to an audience that isn't aware, like myself, before having this conversation of the past? What would you say to somebody to sell it?
Well, I mean, it's different than Elektra. I felt like the story of Elektra was, it had an interesting origin story, but I felt it felt weak. Right? She was still a weak
Because
character.
she was entitled.
Right.
That's the problem. Like, she came
Right.
from entitlement. Black Widow didn't. Black Widow
Didn't.
was
Right.
literally an orphan that
Right.
and she finds herself in the films, which is
Mhm.
interesting too, because it kind
Yeah.
of it could in my personal opinion, I think this is a character that you could identify with if you're a teenager, if you're
Yeah.
a young adult, because you understand the trials and tribulation that this character is going through as an adult, because
Right.
she is learning to mature outside of that program finally, and she's able to think for herself finally,
Right.
and
And
you
I
see that
think we
development.
see, yeah, we do. I mean, we see that in Endgame too. Not only is she a capable leader, but she's able to take those feelings of being overwhelmed and sad and try to turn them into something else. She says, someone has to do it. Someone has to keep this going. Right.
Yeah.
So, and she feels very obligated to do that because I think at least the character that they're portraying in the film, which is a little different than the comics. You have this, to use Russian Spanglish, a goodnik, right? So she's become like this goodnik, but she still has this dark history, which I think if Hawkeye wasn't married, that they'd have been together clearly,
Yeah.
but he was, so that was never going to happen. Um,
Which is
but
kind
she
of
felt specifically.
commendable. It's
Hmm.
interesting to see that, because
Yeah,
a lot of the characters, she's a very flawed character,
yeah,
especially at the beginning, because she has no voice of her own, and she has no motivation whatsoever to do her own. she's
Yeah.
completely a pawn at the beginning. So she's molding herself, and yet she realizes that it's not a good thing to do that. So you could
Right.
see her moral compass coming out already, even at the beginning. And her moral compass at the beginning is very vague and very all over the place. She justifies a lot of things that she shouldn't be justifying, yet she
Mm.
does. And she realizes little by little that she shouldn't be justifying these things. So she breaks her own brainwash, which is pretty damn badass. If you think
Yeah.
about it, you've been
Well, but
conditioned for how many years and you break your
right.
own conditioning. That's pretty awesome.
Oh, it's really awesome. And also the fact that she was kind of treated as chattel, right? You know, the KGB arranging a
Yeah.
marriage between her and Alexei, who becomes the Red Guardian. You know, I don't know. It's just a sad story. You know, also that we see a little bit of like her femme fatale type stuff, and I believe what was it? One of the first Avenger films where we see her being, you know, interrogated, and she's in the chair. She's trying to use all her feminine wiles. She's like, yeah, you know, I'm just this little me, and then she like beats them all up.
Exactly.
But you know,
Which
um,
I
good.
think that goes to the original intent of this character. It
Yes.
was, she's not this femme fatale. She
Mm,
is this incredibly intelligent, calculating,
right.
strong as hell female character that
Yeah.
is playing the illusion of the weak female, which she is not. And I
No.
think that's interesting because it plays into the tropes of society. Oh, women need to be rescued, this and that and the other. And she plays on those tropes because she's like,
Yeah.
look at these idiots. They think that I need to be rescued. They're the ones that need to be rescued.
Right. Well, I mean, and don't forget, Hawkeye was a criminal.
Yeah.
A lot of people forget that he wasn't this do good Dick, you know.
No, not at all. Not at
And
all.
you know, and I think that's, you know, the two of them. Of course, she's attracted to that because he's also a badass, you
Yeah.
know. And they work together to try to battle Iron Man and destroy Iron Man, but then they're, you know, they don't succeed in doing that. And you know, and her falling in love with Hawkeye weakens her loyalty to Russia. And
Yeah.
then when they find the truth, they try to kill her, and then she escapes and she defects. You know, but then they end up catching her again. She gets brainwashed again. You know, so she goes through this
She goes
mental
through a lot.
anguish.
She
She
goes
does.
through
She
a
goes
lot.
through a tremendous amount. You know, and you'd think at some point, you know, she just had it. She'd be this like, you know, Dark Phoenix type character of just like, I'm going to scorch the earth. You know, but but
Which
doesn't.
Hey, you lovely nerds! This is Joe coming to you from Diversely Geek. Diversely Geek is a global nonprofit that promotes self-acceptance by highlighting the positive messages of fandom. We're all fans of something that has affected us for the better. We like to express that love by embracing our inner geeks with you all on our podcast, Diversely Geek Discusses. We also have a podcast for any Whovians out there called Doctor Who in Review. We often partner with Manbitesmedia, so you're bound to come across us sooner or later. You can find us on all podcast platforms as Diversely Geek Discusses, and on all social media platforms as Diversely Geek. You can also subscribe on our website, diverselygeek.org. Live long and may the Force be with you.
Hello, movie nerds. This is Luis Lacau.
This is William Phoenix.
And I'm your host, Brandon Lacau. Do you search for hours on Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, and Shudder? Always looking for the next show to binge or movie to watch? Before you binge, take a bite with Manbitesfilm.
Where do you think that kind of plays into society and why this character was written out? What do you think the original intent was when Marvel wrote this character?
Well, I think she first appeared in 1967. So,
Wow.
you know, we start to have, yeah, there's the very first ones. It's like the Avengers number 36 or something like that. She looks goofy. I mean, she looks like a silly superhero, right? And she has like this kind of Wonder Woman bracelet type things that have like an energy beam in it, and yada yada yada. But it was a very limited series, and then she comes back again, in the 90s and then the 2000s. So it's like this. I don't know. They kind of like how they were trying to have this kind of woman empowerment stuff, in the late 60s and early 70s. You start the whole, feminist movement and all these different things. And I don't know if they were trying to capture that audience, because I don't think women read a lot of comics back then. I mean, I did growing up, but I'm the next generation up. So, but I think for the most part, she started out not even having like a special costume. She was basically this spy, like a Mata Hari kind of character.
Yeah. So it wasn't until later in the 90s that they developed her character or anything really substantial.
She when she became part of the Daredevil arc and the Shield arc is where we start to see her more connection. Yeah. Where and then I think she was also like later in the 2010 and that time around in there, she began becoming like a regular character, like in the Secret Avengers. She was in there. So
okay.
Yeah.
Where do you think that Marvel's going to go with her series? How do you think they're going to handle this series now that they have something that they could actually really flush out this character in? Are they going to go with the cheese factor like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or are they going to go into really developing a character like Daredevil?
Golly, I don't know. I really hope that they don't cheese it out.
I really hope so too, because I'm sorry, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was unwatchable.
Oh, yeah.
Unwatchable.
It was unwatchable. She's also like teamed up with the Punisher too. I mean, she's done like, I don't know, her character is just all over the place. What I hope is that they focus it, right? I hope that they focus her, and I feel like it would be really great to not have the usual, oh, I'm super feminist, it's not necessary. I just want to see her character as a true character, her craziness, her non-craziness, the way that she connects with all these different things. I just want to see her be portrayed fairly, just as if you have like 1,000 Batman movies, or you have a bunch of Superman movies, or you have, Thor movies. I want her to be treated the same way as like the Thor movies. Why can't she have like a normal, amazing film that centers around her character? And that's what I hope that they do. I think that she should be given equal time in that respect. She has a huge story to go through. And I think that she was extremely overlooked. She's not really ranked high in her, like the comic book characters, like, that big ranking that they do. I think she's like something like, I don't know, 176 or something like that. But I feel like she's an underdog. I feel like she's a character that I don't know if little girls want to look up to her. I think Captain Marvel fits that role a bit more. I think she's more of a dark horse.
Oh, but come on, like the women that, I mean, there's also teenagers and women that go through a lot of BS. And I think that's where it's kind of crucial to have a character that could fit to multiple facets of a teenager, because it's not all like, oh, let's look up to Captain Marvel or Wonder Woman, because guess what? Like, there's people that have a lot of pain and suffering that those characters are not identifiable, because it kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You don't have that identifiability, so you need to have a dark horse character in there, which is Black Widow, and even the name instills it. It's like, okay, this is for all you horror fans out there. Watch this one, because it's Black Widow, quote unquote. So it's kind of like it. I think it fits into that crowd, and it fits into that angst of society. Like, no, I don't want to be part of
Sure.
any social group. I don't want to be part of that. I am my own person. I am my own thing, and I will fight everybody that is resisting me. And I will not be brainwashed. I will not be controlled. And it has that empowerment aspect
Yeah.
of it, and that it's super intellectual character that can outwit you in any
Yeah.
way.
Oh,
And
for sure. Did you know that Emily Blunt was originally supposed to play her? But
oh god, that would have been atrocious.
so
That would have been really
so
atrocious.
yeah, so Scarlett, I know, right? So Scarlett Johansson ended up playing Natasha, in 2010. So it says here that Johansson is going to be a producer of the separate film, and
Nice.
then yeah, so that'll be good. Originally, they wanted to do this back in 2010 as a solo film, but it just didn't get momentum until recently. So.
Yeah, well, because of the women's movement, the re-upping of the women's movement, the last 2 years has sparked a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these female characters to come to light, which is good if it's done
Yeah,
in a natural way like this one. This is it's intended to be done this way, and it's being done with the character in mind, hopefully. And
yeah.
let's see where it goes with it, honestly.
Do you wanna hear a weird factoid?
Yeah.
So on TV, Black Widow was supposed to be paired with Daredevil in a proposed live-action 1975 series that was created by and starring Angie Bowie, David Bowie's ex-wife, as
What?
as Black Widow with Ben Carruthers as Daredevil, but it never got past the development stage.
Yeah, I can see why.
But yeah, can you imagine? That's so odd.
Yeah.
Oh, so weird.
That I can't even. Yeah, I can't even fathom. No, nope.
Yeah,
Sorry.
nope.
No, I'm
No, but I
glad they
think
chose
that.
Scarlett Johansson. Honestly,
Oh yeah, no, I think she really makes Natasha. I think she's well. One, she plays these types of roles really well, like the Ghost in the Machine. She was good in that too. So
she.
I think so it's she's able to play these action heroes, and I think
Yeah,
she's able to bring Black Widow to life. You know,
I strongly agree. I
yeah,
think that honestly, Scarlett Johansson is one of these really underappreciated actresses, just because she is this beautiful woman. She is underappreciated in her actual talents as an actress. And when you see her in films like Under the Skin and all these other films where it's very artistic and very much you have to have a good actress to be able to portray this film, you're like, holy crap, she's not just a beautiful face, she is amazing
yeah,
as an actress.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the cool thing about her, though, is that she's subtle about her acting. She is so subtle about it that
hmm
you kind of forget that it's her, which is very interesting. And that kind of goes to like, wow, that's a good actress. That is a very good actress when you can do that. You
Oh,
know?
for sure. I think one of the other things I want to see in the movie is if they give her all of her equipment, like all the stuff that's invented by like the dark and secret Soviet scientists and technicians.
Oh, I would
Um,
love to see
and
that.
then and because like there's these, of course, the bracelet things again, which are the widow's bite. Ooh, pew 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 pew. This like electric static energy thing. Like,
I
but it
love the sound
basically
effects. That's
right?
great.
But it's basically like this giant what do they call it? Tasers, right? It does like 30,000 volts. And then she has like this whole like Batman stuff, right? So she has like a widow's line. There's just like grappling hooks and tear gas pellets, and all that kind of stuff. So she's kind of like part Batman, part I don't know, part Daredevil, part like a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
So she's a kind of a culmination of a lot of attractive features of some of the superheroes, but in female form. Right?
Yeah. And she kind of makes it her own, which is interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
overall, the story arc of Black Widow, what would you give her as a rating
Oh wow!
in the MCU?
In the MCU, well, I'm a little biased, but if I look at it from a purely objective standpoint, I'd have to give it a 7. And the only reason why is that some of the storylines were a little bit weaker, or I felt like they were they could have been better. But in the movies, I'd have to give her at least 8.5 because I liked the way that they portrayed the character, especially in Endgame,
Yes,
because her self-sacrifice is,
it's incredible. It really is.
really incredible. Yeah.
I would definitely agree. I would probably give it a 7 in the movies, the portrayal wise, because
Mm-hmm.
they give her a little bit of freedom, but you could also tell that they were restrained a lot in
Yeah.
what she could do.
Yeah.
And I don't like that in an actress. I don't like seeing that she was restrained and she could do so much more. And you could tell that the scenes were cut out with her in them and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that doesn't go to her. That goes to the actual directing and writing itself.
Right.
But thank you so much, Mollee, for joining us on this discussion involving the MCU and Black Widow in what do you call it, actuality. And honestly, this is a phenomenal character. If you have not seen any of the MCU movies with her in it, please go watch them because they're pretty awesome. And look at the content that she brings to you because it's pretty freaking awesome too.
Yeah.
And her story arc and everything is very interesting. And if you don't know anything about Black Widow, go online, go to YouTube, find out different things before this story comes to play, this TV show that's going to start. That way you could actually know what's going to go on and see it for yourself as well and know some of the back history as well, because they might skip stuff just for the fans and stuff like that. They might make this specifically for the fans. And if you don't have the backstory, then you will forget and not see a lot of things that you might need to see in the character. And she's definitely worth the time, honestly.
Oh, definitely.
So thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you liked this content, please go to manbitesfilm.com and check out all our other content on there. And of course, check out our partners, Diversely Geek, that they do a phenomenal job on writing articles, podcasts, YouTube videos, and all that stuff of very interesting content that goes deeper into the psyche and a little bit more in depth than we do on this show in relation to the MCU. So please check them out as well as we partner with them on this MCU month. So thank you, and please remember to rate, subscribe, comment, and join our discussion on Facebook. And we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Manbitesretro.
As the songs of awakening rang through, the world was created. The silence was broken.
Middle-earth, with its rolling hills, broken mountains, flowing rivers, and beautiful forest, was created.
Cellar Door is a journey into the mythology, the mystery, and the beauty of Middle-earth. Sit back.
Close your eyes.
And imagine.
When we were kids, we all had our go-to happy place, our escape. We gravitated to art, movies, bands, musical, or books. Something that did not make us feel alone, but empowered us in a world of love, magic, and adventures. Come with me as we explore the wizarding world with William Phoenix.